Today I'm planting a bare root tree. This happens to be a Royal Lee cherry tree. This is a pollinator for my mini royal tree. I just purchased this a couple of hours ago at a tree sale from the local Master Gardener group. Notice that it's in a bag because when you get bare root trees, you're taking them out of the soil and you want those very tender roots to remain moist. So you should get them moist when you buy them and then keep them moist before you plant them. Here I have a bucket of water and I'll be putting this in. Now I'll be planting this here in just a couple of minutes, but if it was going to be a few days or longer before I was going to be able to plant this in the ground, it's important that you protect those roots. A way to protect the roots if you're not going to be planting for a while is to heel it into the soil. What we've done in the past is we've had an open place in the vegetable garden. We've dug a hole in the soil, put the tree in there, put the soil back in and watered it in. And that'll keep it protected until you can get it planted. If that's not available, you might want to take some leaves, crush them up, get them wet in a bucket, and then put them inside of a bag so that there's moisture but the roots are not sitting in water for a long period of time. You can see here is where I had my other cherry tree planted that died on me because I planted it too deep and it drowned. The other cherry tree here that I want to pollinate with is doing great. That is a 1-year-old tree. Notice how thick the trunk is and how beautifully shaped the tree limbs are. That's what we want to do with this tree. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to dig a 3-foot wide hole about 2.5–3 feet deep, and I'm just going to turn that soil around on itself to mix it all together and put it back in the hole. Then I'll plant the tree. Well, I got a little bit too excited with this hole. It's about 5 feet wide, so it's much wider than I recommend. I'd rather be a foot too wide than a foot too narrow. Anyway, what I wanted to share with you is I'm about done with this hole, but I've run into 3 very distinct soil types in this hole. And so what I do is I simply mix it in the hole and then throw it over here in the pile, and by doing that it mixes up the soil and breaks it up, makes it nice and loose. I dug in this hole 3 years ago when I planted that tree, and it was a lot of work. Even though it's been 3 years, the soil in here is still nice and easy to work with. It's not solid and hard like it was the first time. Hopefully you can see this well in the video. Here's the sod. You can see the layer of sod here. Here's some soil, something whatever the contractor brought in the back of a truck and graded the property. And then down here is pure solid clay, just chunks of clay here. And this is what causes our trees to drown here because the water comes down and stops. I have my hole filled back up. I didn't compact it. I haven't watered it. I just put the dirt back in until the hole was filled. I still have some soil left over, and that's what I'm going to plant the tree in. I'm going to plant the tree on this soil. So actually the roots of the tree are at ground level. Now that the tree is standing by its own, I'll go ahead and fill in, making sure that I've got my graft mark well above where I'm going to have the dirt, at least 2 to 3 inches above the soil line. And I'm going to be filling all of this in here with the leftover soil. The nursery did a good job in cutting off the side shoots here. I just wanted them to be a little bit shorter, so I'm just going to come through with my Feltco pruners and cut these off. The tree is now planted, and now it needs to be watered. I'm simply going to take the 5 gallons of water that I had the tree sitting in and water this down. As I said before, I did not pack this down. Over the next year it'll all settle, and it'll settle to look something like this tree over here. Once a year I come around with some more soil and mulch around the trees, and I do that in order for it to hold the water when the lawn gets watered, or when I come out here with the bucket and water. The general rule of thumb for fruit trees is to water once a week with 5 gallons of water slowly. One thing I like to do is take a 5-gallon bucket and drill a half dozen 1/8 inch holes in the bottom of the bucket, put it on the top of this area that I have here, fill it with water and let it sit. And the holes are small enough, and there's a few enough of them, that it'll take a while for that to drain into the tree. And because this soil here is nice and loose, it's not going to drain away from the tree and water the lawn or the other area. It'll drain right at the root of the tree. Inexpensive, easy way to do that. Now comes the hardest part of planting a new tree, and that is pruning it. There's a couple of different methods that you can do. Let's take a look at what they did last year. You can see at the nursery that they pruned it right here, and they topped this, and then these grew out here. So one method is to go ahead and prune this back maybe a third, and all these branches here, and this top here, prune this back a third too. As you can see, but when they cut it here, it caused these branches to grow. The reason why you want to prune the tree back is to give the roots a chance to catch up to the rest of the tree. The other method is to simply cut all that off right here. This is a hard thing to do, but this is what I like to do. There it is. This is not for the tender-hearted to do. It's hard to do that to a tree. But as you can see, there are lots of buds here, and I just help the roots become stronger because now all the energy is going to be going into the roots. These will all blossom and bud. We'll have branches growing out, and we'll have a nice, healthy tree. Does this method work? That's exactly what I did with this tree here, and you can see how healthy that trunk is. Nice and thick, sturdy. This is a well-shaped tree. This is my favorite tree because I knew what I was doing after all the years of practice. So this is what I'm hoping for this new tree, is a nice, thick, sturdy, healthy stalk with 4 or 5 branches coming out, and then those branching out to additional branches. This tree here is 2 years old actually. I make sure that my tree tags stay on here, so if I need to contact the nursery that grew the tree, I have their information. I also have the rootstock tag and also the tree variety tag. And I move this from branch to branch as the tree grows, so I'm not girdling the tree. There you have it, a bare-rooted planted tree from start to finish. I'll come out here and make sure that the soil stays moist but not soggy, and you'll see this tree grow and become a beautiful tree over the next few years as you watch my videos. In spring, I'll start fertilizing this tree using the mittleider weekly feed and the pre-plant fertilizer. Because trees grow slower, I don't need to feed it each week as I do with my vegetable gardens, but I use the same nutrients that I'd use in the vegetable garden because all plants need the same nutrients. So I'll feed this tree 3 or 4 times a year, certainly no more than once a month. Look below this video for a link to my video on how to fertilize trees, bushes, and plants. This is LDS Prepper reminding you, if ye are prepared, ye shall not fear. One good way to prepare is to plant fruit trees because you'll be able to enjoy the fruit of your labors for years and possibly generations.